Hi everyone, welcome back. With the upcoming appearance of Thrawn in live action, we figured it was about time we addressed who is Thrawn. We've seen a lot of people in our comments sections kind of saying you guys are really hyping him up a lot. I really hope he's worth it. And that really surprised me and Edward that not many people know about him, but they really should. And that's kind of what this video is all about. One key thing about this video is, and just with Star Wars in general, is as most of you guys know, Disney bought Star Wars in 2012. And then in 2014, they deemed everything that was not part of the movies Star Wars Legends, which means they're not canon.
Fuckers.
Yeah. So they're gonna be two main parts of this video. The first one is gonna be about Star Wars Legends Thrawn, which will come into play later, as we'll talk about towards the end of the video. And then the second part is going to be all of the current canon. Giant asterisks next to current canon. Because that could change with Dave Filoni reintroducing him in live action. He could redo his origin or whatever he wants, and that would throw everything out of canon. Dave Filoni's done it in the past with Kanan Jarrus, so it's just with an asterisk. Just remember that when we get there. But just starting off, just a little bit about him. Grand Admiral Thrawn is part of the Chiss species, and you can tell that based on his blue skin and red eyes. And this is pretty important, especially since his title is Grand Admiral. He worked his way to be the only non-human out of the 12 Grand Admirals. As you guys know, the Empire is pretty xenophobic and human centric. That's pretty big that they promoted someone of Thrawn's racial standing to that high of a position. That really speaks about his character. And he has been called, and I fully believe, one of the most intelligent and tactical characters in all of Star Wars. Would you agree, Edward?
Oh yeah, he's Batman in Star Wars, 100%.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's one of the baddest fucking villains in Star Wars lore. And yeah, I want to go back just a little bit. Griff touched on Legends, and it's get ready because we can talk about this shit for a long time. After Return of the Jedi, Star Wars really spun into video games, comic books, graphic novels, and Star Wars Legends has some of the richest stories. Star Wars fans can be broken up into so many factors. Movie fans, hardcore fans, and the book fans, comic book fans. For those of us who had the pleasure of reading these books, you guys know they really went all out. Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of the craziest and also coolest looking fucking villains out there.
I agree.
He's so narcissistic, he's so sadistic, he's so meticulous with his work. He gets such a kick and such a thrill out of analyzing every single detail there is to know about his adversary. Even go as far as to collecting artifacts from their culture, their history. And he's brilliant. He's a brilliant strategist. There's, as Griff, what he was touching upon, that Emperor Palpatine, who absolutely hates aliens, which is weird because he lives in a fucking galaxy full of them, but that's another video. He hates aliens. There is no aliens, members of the Imperial Navy.
I mean, just think about the movies. Name one alien you've seen in any of the Imperial cruisers that are not prisoners. I challenge you to find a single one.
As a matter of fact, you want to dive into that. Remember that scene in Empire Strikes Back where they're hunting Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon, and Vader contacts bounty hunters. Some of those bounty hunters are aliens. Other ones are droids and shit. And you can see how the Imperial officers are looking at him with distaste. They consider themselves above them. They consider aliens lower class citizens. So here comes Thrawn just showing off that he's not only on their level, he's superior to them. He's a Grand Admiral, not an Admiral. How many Grand Admirals did you see in the Star Wars trilogy? None. The dudes that Vader whacks, they're admirals. Grand Admiral Thrawn, that should say it all. How he goes about getting his title. And by the way, he's personally given the title of Grand Admiral by Palpatine himself. not by some other asswipe.
He was the last one promoted before
Such
Palpatine
badass.
dies.
Heir to the Empire. If any of you guys have read that fucking book, I know Griff's on the verge of reading that book, but if any of you guys have read that book, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It looks like we're gonna get a live action version of Heir to the Empire. I can't
Loose
fucking
adaptation.
I that
Loose.
loose, slightly touching on it,
Probably a name
fully dive
only.
in.
They're missing so many
However
of the
they
main cast.
still, however they do it, it's gonna be. I hope it's fantastic because Grand Admiral Thrawn is I like saying his name, Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's so I remember when he was introduced to Rebels. Fuck, I lost my mind. I had no idea he was coming. I never in a million years thought he was gonna be there because he's, as Griff said, now part of the Legends canon, which sucks. But so I just never imagined that we'd get him. And when he was announced, I fucking lost my mind.
Yeah, and he honestly is what made those last two seasons so great. He's one of my favorite Star Wars villains. I loved the way he this is gonna sound really weird. I love the way he goes about war. Like he learn as we said earlier, he learns everything about his opponent. In one part of Legends, he was against I forget the name of the alien race, but they struggle against more spontaneous battle strategies and maneuvers. And Thrawn, knowing this, just quickly adapted and shifted everything just to throw him off. And going into canon, we saw this in Rebels when Hera was breaking into Thrawn's base just to steal her family's artifact back, and the officer thought it was just a worker stealing some useless trash. But Thrawn, knowing better and studying his enemy, knew exactly who Hera was and how important that artifact was to her. And he does that time and time again. He's really like one thing again that he said in Rebels was Hera was born into war, but Thrawn studied and mastered war.
No, he's a master strategist, and he has absolutely no problem with allowing you to believe in the illusion that you have the upper hand in him when really that's not the case. He will willingly lose the smaller battles to defeat you in war. And he has said it. It's quoted in Legends. It's quoted even in Rebels. When his lesser officers question his tactics, he's been quoted as saying, have no issue in losing a small tactical battle in order to gain more experience and win the upper hand. And if you see him, if you've read him, if you've seen him, he's so calm and so collective. He's not even angry. Vader gets mad and he'll fucking kill you if you fail him. Thrawn won't, because he's so ahead of you in every step that he doesn't even lose his cool. He knows what the grandeur picture is going to bring about.
He's very decisive, very much a big picture kind of guy. Like one thing with Thrawn is a lot of the people in the Empire, and as we see in the movies, they rule out of fear, whereas Thrawn gets people for his intellect and his loyalty. He doesn't try to rule people for fear. He knows you, and that just makes a lot of people follow him and his big picture. Because this is one thing that kind of is a difference between Legends and canon, is that more so now he's not doing it to be evil. He's doing it because he genuinely believes that the Empire is the greater good and that order in the galaxy is what's best for the galaxy.
There's so many ways that you guys could get into Thrawn. If you're not fans of him, and if you are fans of him, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I would highly recommend the Thrawn trilogy. It's, starting off with Heir to the Empire. It's from 91 to 93. It's roughly 3 to 5 years after Return of the Jedi. The Rebel Alliance, they're establishing, or they've established the New Republic, the new government.
It has Mara Jade. That's one great reason to read
That
it.
is another fantastic reason to I hope we get her at some point
We're
in
never
canon.
going to, sadly.
Why not? We never would have got Thrawn. I'm sure we can get Mara Jade. They've de-aged Luke Skywalker. There's a
Fair
perfect
enough.
opportunity to bring her in there. Luke Skywalker's starting off his new Jedi Academy with, a couple dozen Jedi Knights, and Grand Admiral Thrawn gets thrown into the loop. As Griff said, he's one of 12 Grand Admirals, and they start this thing up where they want to reestablish the Empire. Obviously, Palpatine's dead, and all this is going on. They get thrust right back into war. There's clones.
It's flipped this time. This time the Empire is the one with the small numbers. It's really the dregs and just the battled
Oh
remains
yeah,
of the
it really
Empire.
is just the small remnant, and still Thrawn keeps them on their toes. There's clone facilities, there's war tactics. Thrawn being as ruthless and as calculative as he's ever been. It's an entire trilogy of books. I highly recommend them. They're not canon anymore, but
They're
they'll
still good.
introduce
I
you. Yeah,
mean,
they're
if you
still
enjoy
fantastic.
Star Wars, it's something that you should just read. I mean, who cares if it's not canon? It's still good. You're still gonna enjoy it. It is this Star Wars trilogy is what launched a whole nother era of Star Wars. It was 10 years after Return of the Jedi, 10 years before Phantom Menace. These three books is what started getting a lot more books out there, a lot more comics. These were some of the best of Star Wars Legends.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's a lot in there. There's video games, there's comic books. Thrawn has gotten his own line of comics, introducing his new origin stories, which I think is pretty dope.
I
But
agree.
again, as Griff said, Dave may change that. There's some phenomenal Darth Vader comics that for now are canon, but it's been said already by Star Wars. Some of that's canon, some of that they can change up. So we don't really know until we see him live action. But the comics are great. His new origin, or his origin, I would say, is fantastic. The way he's introduced, he comes from a unknown region of the galaxy.
He hails from the planet of Scylla, and he is part of the Chiss Ascendancy. It's a group of Chiss that are trying to make their way in the galaxy, like especially with the galaxy full of war. They're making sure that their people are looked after and they are protected. However, one thing that sets Thrawn apart from the Chiss is their view on war. He ends up going into exile because he thinks that you should preemptively strike against the enemy if they'll give you the upper hand and to ensure your people's safety, whereas the rest of the group do not believe that, and that causes him to be exiled. Whether it's still a little bit fuzzy whether it's an official exile or self-exile,
It's more of a ruse kind of thing.
he ends up leaving and finds Imperials and ends up sneaking aboard an Imperial cruiser disguised as a stormtrooper, but is quickly found out because he does not know his code, his stormtrooper code, and is then interrogated by an interpreter and an Imperial officer. Thrawn sells himself as an asset to the Empire as being an expert in the unknown regions that can help the Emperor protect his empire from these unknown threats. And this Imperial officer, taking some interest in Thrawn, takes him to go see Palpatine on Coruscant. On Coruscant, Palpatine asks, "What can you offer me?" Again, being xenophobic, not really trusting Thrawn, or really pretty much just dismissing him, kind of hearing him as a courtesy. And then Thrawn tells him what he can offer. You can offer him protection from the unknown regions, and that he's intelligent and he can help ensure the Empire will live for days to come. But the thing that really grabs the Emperor's attention is Thrawn starts talking about Anakin Skywalker and his encounter with Anakin during the Clone Wars, and how Anakin spoke highly of Palpatine. Thrawn thought going to go see Palpatine, he would be able to secure a deal that would, in exchange for Thrawn's services, the Emperor will consider the safety of Thrawn's people. Palpatine then was has a little bit of a smirk on his face as he says, "I was hoping it would be you," because he does remember Anakin telling him in particular about one Chiss that he met during the Clone Wars, and he was really hoping that it was going to be him because Anakin spoke so highly of him when he came back to the Senate.
Now, to impress Anakin is not an easy feat. It's something that with Thrawn was able to help him save Padme from a mission. She was trapped sort of behind enemy lines, and Thrawn, utilizing his tactics, he met Anakin and was able to help him. And that's why Anakin was so impressed with him, because he saw him firsthand, and also he helped him rescue the love of his life. Thrawn knew Anakin from back in the Clone Wars, and also Thrawn is one of few people that knows that Vader is Anakin.
Well, few remaining that lived. Vader killed everyone that knew. Well, he thought he did. Palpatine was a bit intrigued by Thrawn because it was a bit of a gamble because he's asking just for him to consider, not even the guarantee of the safety of his people. And then Thrawn just says, "Yeah, it is a gamble. You will get my services, and you may do this. I'm hoping you will, given how great I'm going to be for you." But he really does risk it all for Palpatine and joins the Empire. And then he joins immediately as a lieutenant. He skips cadet, and he rises the rank pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's his abilities. It's his abilities, his ruthlessness, and his tactics that you know make him go all the way to Grand Admiral. And his Star Destroyer is named Chimera. For those of you who are Greek mythology goofs, he's got that Chimera Star Destroyer, and of course he has his own fleet because he's an admiral.
He's in charge of the 7th Fleet, and he's promoted to Grand Admiral right before he goes off to Rebels. Governor Price, who has had interactions with Thrawn in the past and has seen how effective he is, comes to Thrawn saying, I have this problem. Can you help me with it? Then Thrawn, wanting to take this chance to show off what he can do and to really put an end to the rebellion, because it's been pretty unsuccessful so far. There've been a lot of battles, and the rebels may have been losing, but they're still not out of it. But they still had all their morale. They weren't losing hope. And Thrawn's the guy you want to call when you want to win a war, not just win your battles, but win the war. And so he goes off to Lothal, gets promoted to Grand Admiral, and that's when we enter the Rebels show in season 3.
Which is a phenomenal show, phenomenal season. To have him be there, he looks really cool in the show. If any of you guys have seen him, Thrawn looks the part. He looks complete badass.
Is we have the same voice actor. Lars Mikkelsen is going to reprise his role in live action for the Ahsoka show.
We cannot wait to see Thrawn. It's gonna be, if done right, and I say if because we have no way of knowing. We haven't seen it yet. Hopefully, it's not something that's gonna get dragged out too long just to
Just to
make
keep
it.
people on the edge of their seats, kind of something similar to what She-Hulk did with Daredevil. Hopefully he comes soon. If not, I mean, they're already at a point where they can introduce Thrawn at any moment. And if they don't do it next episode or the episode after, it's just kind of seems lazy, and they're just keeping us on the edge of our seats.
What Griff and I have been talking about for the last couple of weeks is what we don't want is for them to just kind of give us little hints and bits of Thrawn and then only show them like at the last episode and just use them as a Kickstarter for Dave Filoni's Mandalorian movie. Because there's a lot that you could do with Thrawn here. A lot. You could introduce him here, have him do some serious fucking damage, and then have him be the main antagonist of your big movie.
And that would
But he has to
work.
die.
That'll be fine. Yeah, he does have to die sometime between now and the First Order. It's a little bit unclear about what happens in this gap. Like, even just in general, there is very little Star Wars in this 20-year gap from where we are currently to A Force Awakens. There are rumors that Thrawn did start the First Order. There's no evidence that support this, but given the fact that Snoke was a clone of Palpatine and there's only a handful of people that know about Wayland, that it's a bit iffy on who it could be. As I don't even know if it's something that they thought through when they even made the seventh movie. But we'll see. There's a lot they can do within this time gap. Thrawn does have to die. I'm hoping it's at the end of that movie. I'm hoping a couple of characters die there. But who knows?
We both think he has to die, but then again, I
They
don't
did it
know.
with
They
Ahsoka
could,
too. I mean, we thought Ahsoka was going to die by the end of Clone Wars.
for all I know, Thrawn could be Rey's main antagonist in Star Wars Skywalker, whatever the hell that's going to be.
I
I don't
hope
know.
not.
Thrawn hasn't been killed off. He's been exiled. He's been lost in space.
He hasn't been killed off in canon, at least. He's been killed off in Legends.
So we don't know. He's out there. I don't know what else I can add to Thrawn really without spoiling too much. If you haven't read the books, go read the Thrawn trilogy. It's a really entertaining trilogy. Go read the comics too. And if you haven't seen Rebels, give Rebels a shot. I have a friend who's a big Star Wars fan, but for some crazy reason, Richard, he he just, yeah, I'm gonna call you out. He just won't watch Clone Wars or Rebels. And I'm like, it fills in so many gaps. I've said this in so many of our Star Wars videos. Clone Wars really, it's the entire, it's the Clone War in its entirety. You can't not watch Clone Wars and then pretend to understand who certain characters are or why certain characters are where they are. And of course, you can't watch Rebels and then could you watch the Ahsoka show without watching Rebels? Sure, but that's like fucking eating pancakes without syrup. It's weird.
Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about Thrawn. If there's any other Star Wars things you'd like us to talk about.